Tuesday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Mirleybo and Gibbe, how'd you do? Did you win?
I won the front nine.
I
was in the group
that
won the front nine.
Let's go.
I gave a couple shots, and then the front nine was a little shamble.
Yeah.
Take the best score, but I put us in position with a drive on a couple holes.
Beautiful.
That's all I can do.
That's it.
I can give you a couple.
That's all you need.
Maybe there are a
expected.
couple holes. The back nine was the annual swag scramble.
Okay.
Everybody's got to bring some swag.
Okay.
You put it out on a table, and based on where your group finishes, you get to pick first.
Okay.
First from last. And,
I like it.
There were a couple guys that won. Shout out to Moran and Angelo. The only group that was under par on the back nine.
I like it.
There were some questions, but I would tell you that I think both of those guys are playing very good golf right now. And if there were other gentlemen, I would seriously question it. No names, please. But
yep.
I can tell you that they won hands down. And then there was a big group of us, like 3, 4, 5 over. And I'm like, all right, like that's great. My group was great.
Yep.
Good fun. Lots of adult beverages that
there
went
you go.
long into the night. Maybe
That's right.
a little longer than they needed to be.
Nice.
Beautiful
safe.
day. It's the off season.
It's gorgeous. It's
now
the off season.
Now it's the off season.
Yeah, you got to live a little bit here, brother. You got to do it.
Today was the last day for rookies in the building, and now they're dismissed. So unless you're injured and rehabbing still, you're we'll see in July.
I will say for our purposes, and I view everything very selfishly through our prism.
As well you should.
Yeah. I much prefer us not in the Hall of Fame game and minicamp going to this week.
Boy, do I.
I mean, I'm noticing it,
Boy.
We're sitting here and we're like, wow, we got shows next week too. We're going to do that next week too because it's not just here. It's quiet in the NFL.
It's about to get real quiet in the sports world.
It's about ready to get silent. Quite frankly. And you're right. In the sports world at large, both of those, the NHL and NBA happening and going so quickly, there's now this huge gulf where, if baseball's worth a damn, it jumps into it. I mean, that's always the job. You're running the Guardians when you get to right now, you've got to own the next 2 months. If you want to own it,
your window is here.
Yeah, you want to get it. Of course, you get into October. Hang banners, all that stuff. But you have got to be relevant in this window, and luckily the AL Central provides for that. I'm seeing it down in Cincinnati with the Reds. They have that Ellie De La Cruz kid up, and they put themselves a game and a half out of first in the Central for the first time in forever, and they've done it. They've checked the boxes, like they're in the mix this time of year because it is quiet. I mean, we've got the U.S. Open happening today. There's a couple of scraps here and there with the NFL, but it's pretty minimal.
NBA draft and free agency could prove to be a few days worth of
little
fodder. But, I mean, the problem is, let's see. This was the NBA's problem. The NBA draft, let's see, this always used to come – this will be June 22nd. So next week is the draft.
Okay.
So the other problem was free agency was always like 4th of July week. Like legal tampering started sometimes on the 4th of July. And that what good does that do? It's a holiday week. That's when it started.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, NFL's going to get real quiet after this week. Yep. Everybody's going to be shut down after this week. Why does it look like it's going to rain in Los
Overcast
Angeles?
in Los Angeles.
Real overcast.
Yeah. By the way, do you know about this joint? Have you read about this place?
I was bringing it up last night to a couple buddies of mine. They were like, what? Never host? I'm like, you got to listen to the show a little bit. You missed a day, missed a lot.
There's an incredible story in The Athletic that talks about L.A. country. So U.S. Open round 1 today. It's pretty early on.
There's a couple guys at 3 under, which is surprising for a U.S. Open.
Yeah, I can't imagine that holds. Who's leading this thing? Anybody we know? There's people we don't.
I don't.
I don't see any of the guys.
I think a lot of the
DeChambeau's
big names aren't coming out yet.
Yeah, they're all afternoon.
Schauffele's 3 under. I shouldn't say that.
Okay.
Schauffele through 5 is 3 under. Ricky Fowler through 6 is 2 under.
Wow, that'd be something.
Boy.
From off the grid to that. He was good at Memorial to the last 3 holes.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, the bigger names are getting ready to tee off here. Let's see. Well, it's weird. There's like a first round tee time, which was 9:30 or 9:45 to 11:57, and then there's another group from 3:15 to 5:16, and then this is very strange.
So they're going to go.
They've got multi-tees in play right now.
Okay, I wonder if they're doing it from a weather standpoint.
It has to be from a weather standpoint.
Yeah. So there's a couple things about this place that they're playing the U.S. Open. By the way, I think it's on till like 11 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, all
which
weekend.
Is cool. It's on all night because of the West Coast start time. I always like these West Coast majors for that reason because they're on, throughout the evening. L.A. Country Club's been around forever. The guy who designed it also designed Bel Air and Riviera. So he designed the 3 most important golf courses in Southern California. So he designed all of them. The USGA has been trying to play at LACC forever. You could make an argument that it's more exclusive than Augusta, that it's that tough of a place to get into. And their membership policy from the beginning until now is nobody from Hollywood. No actors, no producers, no directors, no studio heads.
Who gets in then?
You tell me. But those guys are out. None of those guys can be allowed in. They're not exactly great, as you could imagine, when it comes to human rights issues. They were pretty slow on bringing in minorities of all walks, and so they were slow on that. It has been a place you could not play, so much so that Bing Crosby bought a house on a fairway in hopes that he would be allowed in because he lived on the course, and they said, actually, no, thank you. Hugh Hefner, the Playboy Mansion, which I don't know if that even resonates to kids under the age of 25. The Playboy Mansion
should look it up.
It should, yeah. It registers. The Playboy Mansion is on the course, and there's these legendary tales of how the Sunday morning tee times were very lucrative and sought after because you would see the remnants of the Saturday parties at the Playboy Mansion. Hefner petitioned LACC to have his gate connect to theirs so that once you went in the gate, you were in. LACC said, no, you can't. He said, I'd like to be a member. LACC said, no, you won't be. So he was so upset about it that he then put a exotic bird sanctuary on the property.
I know the bird sanctuary.
Well, I bet you do. And the reason he did so is so that because they're loud. So golfers routinely would complain about the squawking that was coming from the bird sanctuary at the Playboy Mansion. But nobody has seen this course. And the other thing that's really cool about it is it's much like, what was it, Oak Hill with the PGA?
Yeah.
It's one of those old tracks that somebody new came in and said, what happened to this place? So in 2014, they put it back to its original look. So if you watch it today, you see this big fluffy grass around the bunkers. You see these bunkers that have all of these intricate shapes. You see greens that have all sorts of different shapes. And basically what's happened for U.S. golf courses over the last 50, 60 years is they all tried to mimic Augusta. Perfectly manicured, big tree-lined fairways, perfect greens, all of that. And that's not how they were designed. So at Oak Hill they did this. They did it at this place. They went back. They took down trees. They grew up rough. They have long grass in places. They have bunkers that are actually that are a penalty if you hit into them. So this will look different. Like you'd never know that was Los Angeles.
No,
never.
Not
if
at
not
all.
for seeing, you see the skyline and stuff in the background, but it's basically in Beverly Hills.
That's amazing. So
yeah, it's a fascinating story.
So who gets in?
Like couples as a member. Like there aren't many, but no actors. Nobody in show business.
I don't know why you wouldn't want that, but okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the
I'm
way,
baffled by
like
that.
there's even more to it. Like members and guests are forbidden from sharing any part of their experience at LACC on social media. So you can't tweet pictures of the course.
I love that.
Yeah, you can't do any of that stuff. It's fascinating.
All right, I'm going to have to go in and read this.
I want to say it's in The Athletic. The Athletic did the piece on it. And I had no idea. Like it's one of those things that no one's ever seen it. And so they're in the mix. They have it this year, and then they have the U.S. Open again, I want to say in like 2039 or something like that. But there's nothing from that's the way they roll. This is what it is. I think there's a major I think the U.S. Open's back in like 2039. This is it's the first U.S. Open in L.A. in 75 years.
Yeah, we talked about the last major tournament was Riviera in '93.
Yeah, something like that. They were at Riviera, but they haven't had one in forever. But it's fascinating. And the other thing that's obviously interesting here and abundantly clear is that absolutely nobody knows what's coming next for the sport, because Rahm yesterday was saying how he was blindsided by it. So anybody tells you what next? No, we have no idea. You've got the guy who's on the PGA board saying that Monahan has all the say. Meantime, Dustin Johnson says the guy who runs the Saudi Royal Trust is telling him that Liv's going to be around until at least 2024. I would tend to think that guy probably knows what's going to happen.
I believe he has the purse
I
strings
believe
to
he's got it.
That.
Yeah. So that's it is a fascinating one, and the look of it is so distinct. I mean, the U.S. Open forever has been, the Shinnecock winged foot look.
This looks like a PGA Championship.
It does, and some of the holes honestly look like kind of like Open Championship, like some of the courses in Ireland or Scotland.
That goes back to what we've talked about. Like, play the courses that we don't see every week, or every other year, or every 3 years. Like, play new tracks.
Yep. Yeah, there's win in that. So this is no one's ever. They had a Walker Cup in like 2017, but nobody was watching that.
I was going to say, what is a
Walker
Walker Cup?
This is the first. I want to say it's the amateur version of the Ryder Cup.
Okay.
I think so.
No one was watching
I
that.
think so.
Is that during the NFL season?
I don't know when it is. I'm not watching it either, man. I'm not paying attention to it. I'm not paying attention to it. We have a little bit of NFL news. We'll get to that in just a second. In terms of some of the comments being made in the Stephon Diggs thing was pretty interesting yesterday, but it feels like that's all ironed out. Some interesting comments out of Justin Herbert that I read this morning in terms of, it's all going to play itself out, but that's really all I can say about that. I thought it was interesting, kind of the tone of his comments as him and Burrow were kind of waiting on both of those guys. It is a feeder system to the NFL, and there is a little bit I wanted to share on what happened yesterday, because there's a battle being fought at the top of college football, and it is being fought by the two most lucrative entities in the sport, the Big Ten and the SEC. The Big Ten last week put out a schedule with the addition of USC and UCLA that the philosophy was Ohio State, USC, Michigan, Penn State will lift up the garbage teams. So Ohio State's locked-in opponents for the first 2 years are Michigan, Illinois, and Northwestern. So that's it. So they won't play Penn State in 2025. They won't play USC in 2024. If you asked anybody when USC was added to the conference, who would you want them to play, they would say you'd want them to play Ohio State. Well, you're going to have to wait until 2025 before you get a chance to do that. So the Big Ten's philosophy is, and honestly, quite frankly, it's Ohio State's scheduling philosophy for the next 8 years until somebody makes them change it, if you look at what they're doing in the non-conference, is we'll be 11-1 or 12-0 and we'll make the playoff. So that's what their philosophy is. Penn State's, Michigan's schedule in 2023 is a joke. Ohio State's schedule in 2024 is a joke. It's laughable. Absolute travesty. The SEC put out their schedule yesterday. Not their exact schedule, but in terms of opponents.
And aren't they playing one more conference game?
The Big Ten is. The Big Ten's playing 9. The SEC's playing 8.
But there's talk that the SEC eventually is going to go to 9?
No. What the SEC is saying is, ESPN, you gave us all this money to play 8 games. If you'd like us to play 9, we will, but we're going to need a little more cash. Okay? So that's what
Ingenious.
that's what the SEC is going to do. And an effort to prove that they are worth more money, the Southeastern Conference said, hold our beer, Big Ten, because this is what we're going to do in 2024.
This is the big time.
While Ohio State is not playing USC, while that's happening, we're going to go to Georgia, who's currently the king of the mountain in college football. Georgia, their 8 conference games: Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Texas. That's their conference schedule. That's an NFL schedule. The only team on there, I mean, the easiest team on there, I suppose it's Kentucky. Might be Mississippi State. Go tell MJ Emerson that.
Yep.
Go see the amount of NFL talent that's come through those 2 programs in the last 5 years. Alabama, who, by the way, plays Wisconsin in the non-conference, their 8 games are Auburn, Georgia, Missouri, and South Carolina. Okay, those are middle of the road. LSU, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. You can make an argument on the Ohio State schedule in 2024 that they will be 2 or 3 touchdown favorites in 10 of the 12 games they play, because their non-conference is terrible. It's terrible. Terrible. They will not be 2 touchdown favorites against only Penn State and only Michigan. Everybody else will be at least 2 touchdown favorites going into the game in 2024. You could make an argument that Georgia won't be favored by 2 touchdowns in any game in their conference. Maybe Kentucky. Maybe. But Kentucky's been respectable recently. That it would be tight. Florida's conference schedule is Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Texas. Their non-conference includes Miami, Florida State, UCF. They only play 1 cupcake. They play Samford. So what the SEC has done is, while the Big Ten said, we're not going to give you USC, Ohio State, the SEC gave you Oklahoma, Alabama year 1. They gave you Texas, Georgia year 1. That's the difference. And the philosophical difference is even more fascinating. The Big Ten is going to say 11-1, 12-0 will get the attention of this committee as they go to a 12-team playoff. The SEC is going to say, my 9-3 is better than your 11-1. And when you look at this schedule,
they have a point.
When you look at this schedule, I think they're right. They are Pearl Jam at Blossom playing Alive, Jeremy, Black, Better Man. They're playing the hits. Yellow Ledbetter, they're playing all the hits. No B-sides, no new album we're working on. We're not going to lift stuff up. You paid to see us. Here you go. Here's the headliners. That's what the SEC did with their schedule. And the Big Ten said, well, you came to see Pearl Jam. Trust us. Trust us on the new stuff. That's what the Big Ten did. It's a dramatic difference. As a fan, I feel cheated because I'm talking about a bunch of crap games versus. I feel slighted as a guy who talks a little bit of college football in the morning that I don't get to talk about all these games all the time. I mean, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because when you think about Pierce for Ohio State, not only is it Michigan, but it's Alabama and it's Georgia. But like that slate of games week in and week out versus what the Big Ten is going to throw out week in and week out cannot be compared.
So at what point does the TV partner get involved and go, hey, what did I just pay for here?
There's 2.
I'm paying you to put USC Ohio State on.
I can't believe they didn't do it already. I can't believe that there wasn't pressure to give television partners USC
I would be
already.
Throwing my weight around on that.
Yeah, it's stunning. But like, there's primetime windows with NBC this fall where one of the games I want to say is like Maryland and Purdue at 7:30 on Big Boy NBC. Like, they're taking it. They're taking the dregs of the league and they're throwing it up on network. It's crazy. So the only other thing that would stop it, other than what you just said, which is the TV, is if you are the recruiting coordinator at Ohio State, in this instance, a good friend of mine, Mark Pantoni, and you're trying to get kids in on an official visit in 2024, the only game that you have to bring them in for with any juice is the Michigan game. So primarily, the kids that they want to come in on the official visits are kids not from Ohio. They're South Florida kids. They're Texas kids.
Yep.
They're Southern California kids. They're Georgia kids. You don't have a September game to sell them on.
Is November too late?
It's borderline too late, but it's also way, way inclement compared to
Going down to Alabama or
oh my God.
LSU for a weekend.
Even furthermore, like just think about the amount of juice Ohio State has gotten to where every year the way their schedule typically worked out is they would play a monster non-conference game. So whether that was against Oklahoma or they played Oklahoma recently, Texas, USC, Oregon, they play one of those games in September. But if they were on the road against one of those teams, then they would play Penn State at home at night at the end of October. So that was usually a good climate game. So you had at least one game every year you could bring recruits in for. They always bring them for the Michigan game.
Or the Penn State night game.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah.
So the Michigan noon, the problem with Michigan noon is it's hard for Southern kids to get to the game at noon.
Especially if you have a game the night before.
They're playing Friday Night Lights at that time of year in Florida and Georgia.
And in November, you're playing for something in November.
For sure. You're in the playoffs. You're all of that. So, and it's a tight turn to come from the South to get to kickoff. I mean, that's a 6 a.m. flight out, a connect through Atlanta or Charlotte, and then trying to get there and be in place to be entertained by noon. And by the time you get there, it's freezing. Not ideal. Not ideal at all. So the two things that could change it would be TV and then the recruiting, making it very difficult in recruiting.
I would say if I am NBC, like after this season, and it goes the way you think, and the ratings aren't what you think, you go back to the Big Ten and you go, you're going to redo this, much like Amazon did with the NFL on Thursday Night Football.
We're not having
that's what happened.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We're not going to run this back the way that this is set up. Going forward, you're going to start setting up games that matter week in and week out.
Yes.
We're not putting on the bottom of the Big Ten. That's for the Big Ten network.
Well, they have three. The deal that they signed, which apparently there's a lot of hiccups in, is a deal with it's split. It's Fox at big noon, CBS at 3:30, and NBC in prime time. So they have Big Ten this year will not be on ESPN. So they will be on those three over the course of this television window. That's three networks that are going to be asking a lot out of Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, USC to lift up the programming. And the Big Ten teams say they don't want to play in November at night. USC and UCLA can't play every game in the month of November at night to satisfy NBC. They can't. You have to get more teams.
And it's not fair to ask them to play at noon Eastern time when it's 9 a.m. West Coast time and to adjust their clocks that way.
No.
You can do that in the NFL. You can't do that in college football.
No, not at all. So that's what's happening. Those two conferences control the sport, and those two conferences within a week did an entirely different.
It goes back to what you've always said. The SEC is doing it right, and the Big Ten is finding ways to screw it up.
They are damn lucky Ohio State's been good for 50 years.
Yeah,
is really what it comes down to. That there are a ton of Buckeye fans around the country, that there are loyal Buckeye fans in the state of Ohio who watch them play anybody, and they're lucky that Ohio State has hired like 5 consecutive Hall of Fame coaches. Because if they ever was a dip, there isn't anybody else to lift the league. Michigan now, but for the better part of the last decade, not. There isn't. So it's imperative that they stay at that point. They're very lucky that Ohio State stayed where they are. It's a Mailbag Thursday edition of the program. Tweet us your questions at Browns_daily. We'll get to as many as we can in the 2 o'clock hour. We also have a little bit of a deep dive on the Washington football team, the Commies. Rodney McLeod will join us a little bit later on as well as we'll go to his podium session, the new safety. Is John Keim coming up next?
Yes, he will join us from Washington.
There you go. John Keim up next. We're off and running on a Thursday edition. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And for a team of injury lawyers dedicated to every client every day, call 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk and Elk's proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Our off-season tour continues with a trip to our nation's capital, the Washington Commanders. And for perspective, the best in the business, ESPN NFL Nation Commanders reporter John Keim joining us on the Twisted Tea hotline, brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. John, thank you so much for taking the time. Let's start at the top with this sale. Are we waiting for T's to be crossed and I's to be dotted? Where are we in that process?
It's a little bit more than that. We're inching toward that. A lot of it is, for people to know, Josh Harris is led a group. He's the owner of the 76ers and owner of the New Jersey Devils. He's leading a group to buy the Commanders. And in that group, I mean, they're buying it for $6.05 billion. They're trying to get the structure of the offer in compliance with NFL guidelines. That's the big hang-up right now. So he's used to doing private equity deals. The NFL is not. The NFL, one thing we all know is the NFL is not going to change for anybody, and even if it's a guy like this who has some billions of dollars. So they want Harris, that group, himself, to put in more equity in the deal to lessen the debt load. You can only carry so much debt. It's $1.1 billion. The way they were structuring the offer was going to be significantly more than that. So they have to get that in line with the NFL guidelines. There is definite optimism that they're getting closer to that point. And some of it is semantics with how they both view it, and that's where the working together comes into play with the NFL's finance committee. And then the other part of the thing that's taken a while is they have 20 limited partners, including Magic Johnson. So all those groups, all those people have to be vetted for security and for financial reasons. So that also takes time. And so I think the more expensive these teams get, the more you're going to see situations like this, because not many people have a couple billion lying around the couch. And even these guys who are worth, Harris is worth, I think it's over $6 billion. It's not like you have that liquid.
Yep.
And so that's kind of the challenge here. So that's what's taking a while. There's optimism it gets done. It could be voted on at the earliest would be July 20th. So that's where we'll kind of keep an eye on right now.
John, was this a situation where the NFL said, Dan, the time is now, you need to do this? Or has Dan just pushed, it's just been too much negativity and all of it where he basically just pushed the chips in?
I think it's a combination. Listen, if it was up to the NFL, I think they would have told them that a couple of years ago, because they were tired of seeing what had been a hallmark franchise, or is a hallmark franchise of the NFL, like the Browns, just seeing how far they had tumbled, and not just in terms of wins and losses, but in terms of support for them in this town. It's really gone down. Now it's still the most popular game in town by far, but it's not what it was. And so that happened a few years ago. So, but with all the other stuff, then yes, other owners over the last year, you started to feel the momentum from other owners, like enough's enough, because they didn't want to vote him out before because it would have been bad precedent. For all the stuff they did. Like, they all know they have skeletons in their closet, and they know that he knows about a lot of them. So there's part of that was some momentum there, and then I think it got to the point for the Snyders where I think they realized it's never going to change in terms of how much people go at their family. There was, shortly before the announcement was made, it came out like ESPN, I helped with the story, but it was my colleagues did the heavy lifting on a big story about the whole situation. I don't think that helped, more so from a standpoint of it's not going to end. And then a week or two after that, Tanya Snyder, Dan's wife, was on the video screen at a game doing a PSA for cancer. She only appeared on the screen for 2 seconds, and the crowd booed. And I think stuff like that just adds up, and that's part. And then the other factor is he's got a lot of debt, and for him to get out of it, he's got to build a new stadium. Nobody here wanted to work with him. And I think they kind of got the sense it all adds up to it's time to go.
So Harris, whenever this does get done with him, and it feels, and you correct me wrong, more when, not if. John, is that?
Yeah,
more when, not if. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when that's done, he inherits. He will take over an organization that, from my, I'm a man, I'm 40. This was a gold star franchise for my entire youth. I mean, this was Joe Gibbs and the Hogs and all of it, and RFK. But it's been a long time removed from that, including even the name. But he's got a little bit of a mess. He's got to get a new stadium done. Would he even consider rebranding this thing? Would the NFL be open to that? Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like the Commanders didn't land.
No, it did not. It's safe to say, but listen, I mean, I grew up in Cleveland. I know about the name changes, right, and how a fan would react. And I think what helps for Cleveland, and I don't know how many people have fully embraced Guardians, but like it's a good organization. They've built up a lot of goodwill, and so while you may not like the name. Last year, I'm watching Jose Ramirez, right?
Sure.
I'm watching, Jimenez and all that. So here, there's so much bitterness toward the previous owner. I mean, a ton toward him. And so I think whatever they had come up with, it was going to fall flat. So the fans have not embraced it, but I have yet to talk to anybody in the Harris Group and talking to multiple people who have said, yeah, they're going to embrace that. They're not. I mean, they're going to change it. They're not going to do that. Now, if they did it, it would be down the road. There's a couple things. One, they have to get a stadium. If your main goal is to come in and change the name, you may win the populist vote, but if you don't build a good organization, it doesn't matter. Like they weren't showing up in 2018. The team is 6-3.
Yeah.
I was at the mall watching Josh Norman hand out tickets to get people to go to the games. They were called the Redskins then. Yeah. So the point is, like, you still have to build a good organization to get them there. If you change it back to the Redskins and you don't win, they're not going to show up. You know what I mean? So you have to build. So that's their priority: is stadium, building a good team, and maybe down the road, if they realize that some people just can't get past that, they'll do it. I would be very surprised if they did it.
Let me just throw this out there to you. You workshop it. Red Hogs, Script R from the Joe Gibbs hat, same uniforms. Does that hit?
Listen, I've heard everything. What it used to be was just change the logo to a potato and call them the Redskins. You know?
Yeah.
And so, listen, there was one of the names, like their unofficial nickname is the Hogs. That they have a pig, basically, whose nickname is Major Toddy or something. And like, he's a hog, right? He's a pig. So, but they tried a lot. There was a segment of the fan base on Twitter, and so I have to boil it down to that because Twitter is not indicative of everything, right? No. And some people think it is. It is not.
No.
So, but there was a segment of there that wanted red wolves.
Okay.
And I know they looked into it, and in talking to other people like trademark attorneys, all that, it's so much harder to get something now when there is a trademark conflict than it used to be. And like these things get turned on all the time, and the cost of it and the branding of it, they were afraid of how much it would cost to deal with it. There was you had the Timberwolves, so the Wolves part would be, there was just a lot of things with it. So they did look into the Red Wolves part. There was Red Tails was another one. Red Hogs was actually on a list at one point. But, they landed with Commanders. Warriors, I think, would have been the name.
Yeah, that would have been
had
great.
It not been, and had they not, I know the Native American groups probably would have fought that as well, because the fear was that you could continue with the imagery that they were trying to get away from. And like that was a big fear. But like Dan Snyder had trademarked that name years ago for an Arena League team. Okay. And early on in the process, when they first said they're going to change the name, early on, I was told, like, oh, he's got a name that he really likes. They're going to announce it within a week or two. And then a week later, it's Washington Football Team. Well, I know that wasn't it. So I think had it, I could have seen them going down the Warriors road, and people, I think, would have liked that. But again, Golden State, blah, 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 Native American stuff. It's just a lot of headaches with it. If they change it again, I think, again, if you don't build a good organization, it's not going to matter.
Where's that stadium going to go? They go back to RFK's site? Is that going to be a possibility?
That's a possibility. There are a lot of obstacles because, first, the federal government owns the land. So the first thing that has to happen, the federal government has to either lease or sell the land to the district. Then you have to deal with the district city council. And it's definitely split on there as to whether or not to what they would do to get the team back in. The mayor wants him. I do think that any group coming here, that's the first place you have to try and make it work. There was definite pessimism about that a couple months ago. I'd say about a month ago, I sensed a little bit more optimism, but I would still consider it a lot of obstacles there, because you also have, like, the split of the revenue. You have neighborhoods there that would try to fight it, I do believe. And then there's so there are definite issues there, but I would say from a fan standpoint, that would be the number one place. And I do think that when Harris comes in, they will absolutely look there. I think ultimately it could be in Maryland again, close to where they're at, with their practice facility staying in Virginia.
Okay. Let's do a little on the field, shall we? Is this are they? I mean, they're too dang good defensively, I would think, but it does feel like they could be. This is a great quarterback draft. Is that hanging over this season for them?
No.
Okay.
No, because for the reason you said, like, I would be surprised. First of all, Ron Rivera's in his fourth year here. They haven't had a winning season. Now, they did win the division a few years ago in his first year, but they were 7-9. They haven't had a winning year, and you have a new owner. Unless the owner says, yes, I want you to tank and we'll keep you no matter what, and then in that case, you've got to start selling off parts, because they would be too good to be that bad. And, to me, like, they actually have a pretty decent roster. The quarterback situation is the one, but if you to get in that top 3 picks, you'd have to get rid of so many good players that you're really setting your franchise back years. Even if you get a quarterback, and even then, as we know, as Browns fans have seen, you get a number one quarterback overall, it may not work out for you. So you build the roster and you try and get the guy that you like when you can. And they do like Sam Howell. I know a lot of people, I think, don't quite understand that, but they really do like him. And I think they feel like they have a shot with him, but they built a good roster on defense, especially. Questions on offense. I think they'll be an intriguing team, because so much of it depends on Sam Howell. And I also say, I think the biggest move they made this offseason, well, not even think it was hiring Eric Bieniemy. And I know that he is a popular guy as far as, like, the poster child for not getting a head coaching job. He's made an impact here already. And I, and like, the more you talk to players, you talk to coaches, just what he's brought, I think he'll help them. So I think I just don't see them being bad enough, short of a lot of injuries, to climb into that world of getting a Caleb Williams or a Drake May, someone like that. So, so yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't see that. I don't see that.
Yeah, John, and the other thing is like, Sam Howell was Drake May before his last year at North Carolina. Like, people thought he was going to be the number one pick. He was that guy. Like, he was the guy everybody talked about.
Was.
Are you hearing whispers? When you talk to players, do they think he's got the juice for it?
Yes.
They do.
And, the other thing is, as you know, and at the end of last year, basically, Taylor Heineke told me, he's like, I'd be comfortable coming back here and backing him up. Not competing with him, but backing him up. That's how he viewed it at the end of last year, because he's like, he's going to be really good. So, like, other guys were saying that too. Now, is this hyperbole? Well, some of it is, because we don't know. And as you know, as people there have heard for years, like, this guy's going to be the guy. And next thing you know, you're on quarterback number 35 since 1991, right? So we've all seen, like, I'm speaking to a fan base that knows very well about the quest for a quarterback search. And this one is in the same boat. But I will say, like, I think there are a couple things that I think, now, again, you don't know how good he'll be, but if he's better than what they've had, which hasn't been great, then that's an upgrade for them. And could he be is he a top half guy when it's all said and done? I don't know. But if he's in that middle range, I think that would be a step up for them, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that would. So I don't know how good it'll be, but what I do like with him that they like, he's got some mobility, he's got the quick twitch arm. So when there were times where even in practice he might be late with a throw, but he can get in there because once he recognizes, he lets it go. There's no hesitation. So he's got traits that they like that they can build around, but he's young. He's made one start. And, so like there are going to be growing pains, and he's in a new offense. It doesn't add up to instant success. But if you build the right roster around that guy on defense, they could be really good, then that helps a lot. And then you have Jacoby Brissett behind him. And I think he's a guy they really like, just because, as people in Cleveland know, the guy is just a pro.
Yeah.
And I think, so if it doesn't go well for him, you have Jacoby right there, and so that's a good insurance policy for them.
He'll be a home run. John Keim, follow him at John_Keim. Be sure to check out the podcast, the John Keim Report, wherever you get your podcast. Last one real quick, get you out of here on this. Chase Young, is he play this season in Washington?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All this talk about like, the Steelers are in the no. It's not like they want. Here's the thing. If he does well, it helps his coaching staff keep their jobs.
Yeah.
He is a potential playmaker. The other thing is teams were not calling about him before the draft, so nothing has really changed since the draft, between the draft and now, other than he showed up for a mandatory 3-day minicamp and in shorts and a helmet looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to – now, if you get to the trade deadline, and this goes back to what you're talking about earlier – if you get to the trade deadline and the team's 2-6 or 2-7 and Rivera's been fired, well, that's when you say, and Chase is actually doing pretty well, but maybe not awesome, then I could see him trading him, because then it's like, then he's a free agent. And if you don't think you're going to keep him, because you may be entering into a different situation. If you don't have the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Then you want to go a different route. That's where I could see it happening. But right now I don't see it. I mean, they have told him, if you go out and produce, we will find a way to pay you and keep you around. And that's where it goes back to how being on a rookie contract allows them to have an expensive defensive line, at least for the next few years. So, yeah, I do think he plays there. And, I think their strategy with this, with the fifth-year option not picking it up, is to see if it motivates him. And talking to some guys, I think it is. So, I do see him playing there this year.
John, great stuff. Really appreciate your time. Always enjoy the conversation. Thanks for giving us some of your time today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Always enjoy it.
All right, that's John Keim. He's the best. ESPN, NFL Nation, the podcast, the John Keim Report, wherever you get your podcasts. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Hi,
Cleveland, family-owned and operated. Certainly lets you know how much they care about your waste responsibility, whether you're a resident or a business. Learn more by visiting rumpke.com for details on that. All right, let's take a look at the categories for the commies. Let's just start with this, Gibbe.
Yes.
With all due respect to John, my advice to ownership would be to change that thing right now. Its association is with Snyder.
I couldn't even look at you because I was like, you're like heartbroken.
It's with Snyder. The association's with Snyder. It did not land. There all are alternatives, including just going back to the Washington football team and having the old uniforms with the script R or the run and W, whatever. Like, you cannot roll that clown show out for the foreseeable future and say we are the Commanders.
If
like,
you just went out, there is something to what you're saying from just going out and going, we're going to start from scratch right now.
Right now.
We're going to get to the stadium. We
We'll
know
get all
that's a
that done.
big matzo ball hanging out there. But we're going to start by just rebranding this. We're going to go back to the old school.
We're going to look the way this team
Yeah.
needs to look.
Yeah.
And whatever the name is, you want to do Red Tails, Red Wolves, Red
Let's go
Hogs.
back to the football
team, whatever. Like, they need to look a certain way. They cannot look the way that they currently look. And the other thing I would say, he brought up the Guardians rebrand. The Guardians are almost, you can't even tell the difference. They had pushed off Wahoo for years. Like, he hadn't been available for years. He hadn't been on the hat for quite a while. If you just look at them from afar, they're still, I mean, even IANS, if you just look at it quickly, it looks the same. You know, like it's a non-move. It's always going to be disruptive to a fan base when you take away the identity of the team. I get it. People are going to be bitter about it. Some may never get over it. But in terms of the minimal difference, it's minimal from Indians to Guardians. Redskins football team Commanders?
But I do agree with him in the sense that with the Guardians, they win.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many people are going to games these days, but
Seemed like
come October, they're in the playoffs.
They had 155,000 over the stretch last weekend. Yeah, and it still, like, if you're flipping and you see that uniform, it looks the same. It looks like a Cleveland baseball team.
Yeah.
So
but winning
that's
helps. If
winning
you
helps.
lose,
yes.
everything gets magnified.
Yeah. I just think the association with Snyder, I would do everything in my power to get rid of it. So I would go back to what they wore under Joe Gibbs.
Yes.
If you want to be the football team, that's fine. Obviously, they can't have the Redskin logo on the side of the helmet. Although, if you read the reporting on that, Blackie Wetzel, the guy who designed the logo, Montana Blackfeet Indian, loved it. It took great pride in the fact that it was on the uniform. That logo was. All of that's out there. But if you feel like you want to stay away from that, fine. But you got to go back to the old look. And if you want to put a W on the side of the helmet or whatever, but they've got to do that right away. The stadium is garbage. It's the worst in the NFL now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Jacksonville's not great, but Washington is by far the worst. I still remember, like, Zagura coming into the booth last year. He's like, "Oh, this isn't so bad." I go, "It's 11 a.m. Wait till you have to actually call the game."
Yeah.
And then we got into the game, and like the first break, he turned around and goes, "Wow, this is awful." And I was like, "Yeah."
What makes it so awful from your guys' perspective?
You're in a corner, and it's covered. Like there's you don't know where the ball is from and like it might as well be like you're looking all the way down.
Oh, all the way.
Yeah,
I see.
Trying to call it. They provide no TVs like in the booth.
Yeah.
They're because the stands are right there underneath you.
Yeah.
The TVs are up there, and they're like old, like 1980s. Like
so you're trying to.
Oh yeah.
Well, from a fan base, it's awful because it's impossible to get to. If there's nothing to do around it, it's
is
the middle
the
of
worst.
nowhere.
Yeah,
it's the middle of nowhere. So that's the problem there, and that's hard in the DMV to find a place that's middle of nowhere, but they did. Road trip, absolutely. I love D.C. I love Maryland. I love Baltimore, Annapolis, all of it. Sold. I'm in. I think, and it's so doable from here. It's easy trip.
Very easy. I love it. My father was stationed there for a little while when he was in the military.
Yeah.
I love D.C. And like you said, Annapolis is super close.
Yeah.
You could fly into Baltimore.
You can. Yeah, you have three airport options to fly into. Yeah, so it's absolutely
Yep, big fan.
must thing to do on a road trip. History, gulp it up. Anytime I've been there, I find it very inspiring. Like I feel like the last time I went there, I like found a book by John McCullough on 1776, and I like devoured it, just because the history of it all.
It's amazing.
You know,
and every building
Mount
you
Vernon,
go
by
into,
the way, is cool too.
Yeah,
That's
I would
a cool
agree with
spot,
that. I went there when I was young, so
Yeah.
I don't think, probably didn't have the appreciation that I would have now for that.
If you had to pick a place to build a house, hard to beat that place. Like he's
Yeah.
overlooking the Potomac, like it's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome spot.
I mean, everything that you do there is pretty amazing. I would also, I would tell you this: the oldest bar in D.C. is called the Old Ebbitt Grill.
Yep.
It's right by the White House, and it has hosted a who's who, presidents, heads of state. I mean, it's a great bar, and the food is pretty spectacular as well.
If you could have anybody off of this roster, who would you want? They got a lot that I would like. I would like their weapons.
Yeah, I was
would
going
love
to say
McLaren.
Yep.
I would love Terry McLaurin would be the answer. But the other, honestly, it's probably Jonathan Allen. D tackle.
Yeah,
That's the correct answer.
yeah. From a need standpoint,
That's the guy.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a game wrecker. All-time favorite Washington football team player.
The first one that comes to mind, I know he got in a bevy of trouble, but Dexter Manley, baby.
Yeah, he was so intimidating.
So good, too, though.
Well, him and Charles Mann on that defensive line were ridiculous. I'll stay at that era. I'll go Darryl Green.
Ooh, there you go.
Love Darryl Green.
Little
He was
Art Monk.
cool.
Art
Yeah,
Monk.
Gary Clark. Yeah,
Yep.
they had a lot of dudes. Jim Lachey played on those Hogs lines. Joe Jacoby. Yeah, they had a lot of. They were solid. They were a lot of fun.
But that's how far back you have to go.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, they won.
I mean, RG3 won for 1 year.
Gibby, they won 3 Super Bowls with Gibbs with 3 different quarterbacks.
Yeah,
It was Rippon, Williams, Theismann.
Yeah.
3 different quarterbacks, and they won 3. Playoff team in the NFC, they might be. If Howell's good, their defense is great.
So Howell's going to be the guy, not Brissett.
Yeah, it'll be Howell.
I don't know how well that plays.
Well, he was Drake May, the kid at North Carolina, coming after his sophomore year. Everybody thought he was going to go number 1 overall. And then that next year, Carolina graduated all their skill position talent, and he didn't put up the numbers. But he was really well regarded.
Did he play there last year?
Yeah, he's in his second year.
That's the guy. That's the guy they booed. No, Carson Wentz was the guy they
booed.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That's right.
biggest off-season addition or loss, ownership.
Just ask anybody in D.C. They'll tell you.
That's the biggest one of those. Final hour of the program. It is a Mailbag Thursday. Tweet us your questions at Browns_Daily. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. And be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. Join the Browns season ticket member wait list today for the best chance of securing tickets for all home games in future seasons. Don't miss out. Go to clevelandbrowns.com/tickets or call 440-891-5050 to reserve your spot today. U.S. Open round 1 underway. Gibbe, do we know who's leading this thing?
Yeah, his name is Jacob Solomon.
All right.
He is
Did you say
minus
so?
4 through 15 holes.
-4 to U.S. Open.
Minus 4.
That's getting after it.
I mean, minus 4 in previous
Sometimes
years
wins. Yeah.
That might
I don't know if it'll stay there.
yeah.
It is weird. It doesn't, like usually L.A. this time of year is sun-kissed, and it's been overcast.
Now you got a co-leader, Ricky Fowler.
Man, that'd be a hell of a story.
Oh, if he's in it on Sunday,
That would be so cool. He's the nicest dude.
he is.
He signs everything. He is so kind, so polite. Even if as his game went to garbage, because he was at the point where he had to qualify for this thing.
Yeah.
But he's gotten his form back, and I think he was really good at Memorial to the last 3 days. So the fact that he is in the mix that's cool. He's really, really easy to root for.
Absolutely. Let's see who else is in this mix. Zonder Schauffele is 3 under. Max Homa 2 under. Bryson DeChambeau is 1 under.
So some familiar guys then.
There's a
near
couple.
the top.
Scheffler's even. John Rahm is even. So some of these guys are out there on the course. They're
just getting going a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say there are. So you have 2 different tee boxes going.
Yeah.
So first hole and the 10th hole.
Okay. So when you got to have a whole group clear before you can send the other ones
And
off.
the next group will go out in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So Morikawa is at +1. Yeah, there's a couple guys not playing so well. Justin Rose at +5. Patrick Reed is at +5.
Well, that makes me happy.
Yeah. The next group of guys goes out at 3:15.
Our time. So that's noon 15 their time.
Yep. Phil Mickelson will go out right around 4 o'clock.
Like Koepka and Rory are together.
Yeah,
Spieth's
that's
gotta
at
be in there.
4:55. That's right at 5 o'clock. Spieth is at 4:45. Finau's at 4:45.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
And a little bit of news, of course, because why wouldn't you want this weekend with the U.S. Open? The U.S. Department of Justice has opened a review of the PGA Tour's planned alliance with DP World Tour and Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund.
It's going to be tricky. So this is not Saudi-based, but the Saudi-based group has bought Newcastle United in the Premier League. There is a Qatari sheikh who owns Man City, and then a different Qatari sheikh is now in exclusive negotiating rights with Manchester United. Similar, I want to say, with PSG, Paris Saint-Germain in Europe as well. So they've got a lot of money to spend, kind of infinite, it seems. And they are that region, those oil-rich countries, they are going to throw enormous sums of money at there's going to be one in an NFL team. I mean, it's coming. The money is going to be transcendent. So there will be more and more. I did see that from the Justice Department. I don't know what.
I mean, they're looking to see if it violates federal antitrust laws. I've never seen one of these investigations actually go somewhere.
Doesn't feel like it.
I feel like they're just spinning their wheels.
Like who would be antitrust? Like who would be the competitor that would be hurt by this?
In a letter to the PGA commissioner, one of the senators wrote he had serious questions about compensation arrangements, formal or informal, proposed as part of the merger framework. They noted that the PGA Tour's most recent tax forms reported that Monahan earned $14 million in 2021. The tour and affiliated organizations paid 19 officers and employees more than $1 million annually, spent more than $63 million in salaries for top staff.
Well, so that goes back to why that was another big theory as to why the PGA wanted this sorted out, because they're allegedly a nonprofit. So that was the other issue, is they don't want these books known.
Correct. The Wall Street,
because there was always this whisper about, all right, how much of this money is really going to charity? So
maybe
that's
not so much.
That's the other thing.
That's a lot of money on senior PGA officials.
That sure
who
is.
we
To have
don't
19 people making over $1 million a year. at the PGA.
What
seems crazy
exactly are they?
What are you doing?
What is your organization? Remember that first and foremost. One PGA Tour official notified employees this week that the outcome of the deal likely won't be known for at least a year. That goes back to your theory.
They were
it was going to get leaked.
They were worried it was going to get leaked. Yeah, so they had to get it done. In the NFL world, pretty quiet this week. Sean McDermott did say that the Stephon Diggs matter has been resolved. It was interesting. So he came in Monday for camp and did his testing. Skipped the Tuesday. McDermott, in Monday's availability, acted like he didn't know what was going on with him and that it was concerning. By the time he talks yesterday, McDermott says, we just needed some space, and now everything's fine. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I do think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on them. There was tremendous pressure on them last year. I think they know that they have spent and it's go time, and I think they're feeling it.
This is it right here.
I think they're really feeling it. I do.
And it's put up or shut up. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
They got to go out and they actually have to do it. We'll see if Stephon Diggs can play nice with his quarterback, because that seems to potentially be part
Alan
of the
had wax poetic, had all sorts of nice things to say about him.
Of course he did.
So I don't know.
And Stephon Diggs is getting his money, so I don't know.
Yeah, he got paid. I don't know.
I don't know what you want here.
He was better. I want to say Nick pointed this out yesterday. He was better the first 10 games than he was the last 7 last year. Like his production fell off a cliff after the first 10 games. So I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with that. But he got paid, so what difference does it make?
This from Field Yates just a few minutes ago, ESPN, on the last day before teams head off for NFL summer vacation. A look at how much cap space each team officially has. The Bears, the most cap space, $31 million. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs at 32, the least, $393,000. Might need to restructure some things to get you through the season. The Browns sit at number 10, almost $16 million available, $15.9 million available.
Yeah, so you've got something there to work with if you get to camp and you feel like you need another body on that defensive front. NBA playoff ratings, pretty good. 5.47 million viewers per game during the NBA playoffs, the most watched playoffs in 5 years. The NBA Finals were 11.6 million, which is slightly down from 2022. I think that's justifiable. I mean, it was 12.4 in 2022. It was Warriors-Celtics. They went 6 games, and the games were competitive. This was 5-game gentleman's sweep.
Yeah, this is what we talked about the other day.
It just,
I mean, we knew the ratings weren't exactly going to be a home run for the finals, but they were great for the first round through the conference finals.
They have somehow created parity in that sport. A sport that never had it has it now. So that's kind of a win for everybody. I did see this as well. Michael Jordan's flu game shoes fetch $1.38 million. What piece of sports memorabilia would you want?
Boy, I don't know if there's something that I'm paying that much for.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, if they said you can have anything in sport, any piece of memorabilia in sports, you put it on your wall. It's something that that people would be excited about.
I don't know.
The things that jump to mind to me, as a kid who grew up a Lakers fan, I initially thought of like something from Magic in the 80s. But honestly, the thing that I think would be really cool would be Tiger Woods' first green jacket. Would be pretty cool.
Wow. I mean, that's – yeah.
There's
only one.
There's one. It's an all-time thing. He lapped the field. It was a hello world moment. I don't have any sort of, very little interaction with Tiger other than just talking to him every year at the Memorial when he used to play all the time and ran that thing. But I don't know. As I thought of it, that's the first thing that came to mind to me. There's a lot of cool stuff out there, but the flu game shoes, is that the clincher? Or is that the game before? So. I can't remember if the flu game was the clincher or if it was the one.
I think that was the.
That's not the shot. Like the shot when he pushes off on Byron Russell and then hits the shot, which is actually like a game 6. It's not even a game 7.
That was game 5 in the 97 finals.
Okay.
And that tied the series at 2-2.
Okay.
Or no, was it?
No, that would have made it 3-2 because they
won
won
it
3-2.
6. Yeah, this was going into the game. It was 2-2.
I don't know that Jordan's teams. There were very few instances where they actually went to 7 games. There might have been a Pacers team that took them to 7 once, in an Eastern Conference final, but
maybe
it's
a
far
Knicks
and far.
team with John Starks that went 4 for 45 or something shooting.
That was against the Rockets in Game
was
7 of the
against the
NBA
Rockets.
Finals when he went 4
He just
for
kept
19
shooting.
or whatever, and he just kept shooting and couldn't hit anything. Yeah, but I don't think that they never played a great team. They just didn't. There's a lot of factors to it, but they didn't. The timing of it wasn't such that they ever had to beat a great team. Yeah, so there you go on that. All right, we want to do Rodney coming up next?
Yes, sir.
All right, coming up next, we will head back to the podium. New safety Rodney McLeod. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Now let's head back to the podium from Minicamp and new Brown safety Rodney McLeod.
You're down.
Team, great deal of talent here. Felt like have a lot of guys that can contribute to bringing a winning culture. Of course, Jim Schwartz as well, being with him in Philly, understanding like the defense and knowing what type of man he is and coach. That also helped, and Andrew Berry as well. So excited to be here, man. Like I said, it's a great deal of talent. brings the best out of you each and every day. So looking forward to continue to build with these guys and hopefully be able to have a successful season this year.
So when you were with Jim, obviously, winning that Super Bowl there, just tell us a little bit about what makes him so good, what it was that kind of drew you back to him.
Really his passion, his energy each and every day, holding everybody accountable, demands the most out of you. He holds everybody to a very high standard, and that's what you need in this business to win. And so I think he's already established that here, and you could tell he's a culture shifter. And so I feel like that's what's needed. Like I said, he's going to demand excellence, and just an amazing guy.
What was it about that group in Philly? You guys kind of broke that string.
Yeah.
Won that Super Bowl kind of out of nowhere. What was it about that group and Jim and just what you guys were able to do?
Yeah, honestly.
You see some of that here.
Yeah, it's really the culture. We really made it our own there. The players, it's obviously established by the coach, but it's another thing when the players actually take ownership in it, and you can see that starting to form here.
You signed a little late after that first wave of free agency. So what was that like for you, that waiting period where maybe you didn't know what was going to happen?
Yeah, it's a lot different than what I've experienced a lot earlier in my career. But at the end of the day, I think being with my family, knowing what I was able to do last year, what I was able to put on tape, that God had a plan, and I think He brought me here for a reason. It's a great alignment, like I said, and Jim, Andrew Barry, and the guys who are in this locker room. So I'm happy to be here and excited to really just get out there and win some games this year.
You guys are out there, and offense, defense getting a little chippy at the end. What does that do for you? I know it's early on, but does that help get you guys fired up and ready?
Yeah, it's just a competitive edge, and that's what you want to see from guys. It means something to them, and over the course of these OTAs, we've been a little reserved. So guys are just looking forward to actually getting out there, competing versus one another, making each other better. Iron sharpens iron. So it's good, competitive fun. I love some good trash talking. So you saw a little bit of that today.
Rodney, the personal protector on the team is often the smartest player on the team. Is that something you view yourself as?
Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely one of the smartest guys. I feel like I got a real good sense of the game, high football IQ, and I think you need somebody not only at PP but as a safety as well who understands the defense, is a good communicator, and can get guys lined up.
You say culture a lot here in this.
Yeah.
How does that get built?
From the players, leaders on the team, and like I said, the best teams that I've been around, the most successful teams, you can see that the players really hold the team values close to their heart. They hold everybody accountable. They set the standard each and every day, and they lead by example.
So with you, Juan and Grant, a lot of times you guys will probably use three safeties. What does that do for this defense? You guys, that could be a pretty good set, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we're all playmakers in our own way, and then Jim's going to find the best way to utilize all of us in our strengths, and that's what I'm most excited about. It's a real good room, from the corners to the safeties, linebackers, and of course the D-line. So I think we're going to make a lot of plays this year. Right now it's just about building the chemistry, understanding the defense, and then letting it all hang out when it's time to go out there and play.
Is there something about Jim Schwartz that makes him a good communicator, a good teacher, that maybe guys pick up on things a little quicker under him?
Yeah, Jim's he probably is the smartest in the building, to be honest, outside of myself. But no, he knows so much, and I think what I love most about Jim is he's a genuine guy. He really cares about each player. He invests in us and getting to know us. And I think when he does challenge you, and in those moments, it's coming from a good place. And so he is a talker. He shares a lot of stories, but it's all because he cares. And I'm glad to be back with him this year.
How much can you help the other guys, especially in secondary, since you're so familiar with this defense?
Yeah, I've been dropping a lot of knowledge on them just over my time being with Jim, 5 years in Philly, and trying to help them, get up to speed a lot quicker. And that's what I can, bring to this team outside of, my abilities on the field and leadership, but it's also the knowledge of the scheme and helping guys out in that way so that, kind of share a lot of insight.
Do you think that there's any similarities? I know it's early stuff, but between your early days in Philly compared to you getting here now, seeing the different coordinators, seeing kind of young corporal guys that you're working with defensively, do you see any similarities right now, you think?
Yeah. Like I said, from the cornerback room, I think what helped us win in Philly was we had great cornerback play. And that's obvious here with Denzel Ward, Greg, and also Emerson in the back end. And then you add Delpit and Juan Thorhill, reminds me a lot of my times with myself and Malcolm. So I think the pieces are there. It's just now about execution.
Rodney, how common is it to have a defensive coordinator that likes to coach right at the line of scrimmage like that? I mean, have you had other defensive coordinators do that throughout your career?
Yeah, I think, it's one in the trenches, man, up front. It's big, and Jim stresses that. We're going to lean on the defensive line. We're going to allow them to attack. They're going to set the tempo for the team, and I think we got the right guys up front to do so. So I'm very excited because that makes our job a lot easier in the back end. They're applying pressure, and we take advantage of it.
What's it like for you at this stage in your career, coming in kind of knowing you're being brought in to be obviously a play still, but also be like that leader and be that guy that sets that tone?
Yeah.
How is that different from kind of early?
Yeah, it's a lot different, but I've accepted that and understand that's what's asked of me this year. And so I'm just really looking to be an asset to this team, and however that looks. If it means coming in 3 safety packages, X amount of snaps, or if that means eventually being a starter, I'm ready for it all. Just looking to contribute, and like I said, help this team win. I'm really fiending for a championship, so that's my purpose, and that's what I'm here to do.
And was that sort of, Malcolm was kind of that leader for you guys in Philly. Are you sort of, did you learn from him?
I learned a lot from Malcolm during my time there, being that close to him in the locker room, standing by his side. And I felt like we were both leaders at the same time, but led in different ways. And so when, he stepped away, I was asked to, be a lot more vocal than maybe I had in the past. And really accept that challenge. So, somebody that I give a lot of credit for some of my leadership qualities. But, yeah, looking to do the same here.
Rodney, how would you describe Bubba Ventrone as a coordinator?
Fiery, still thinks he could play the game, keeps himself in good shape, very knowledgeable, passionate coach. And another guy who really holds everybody to the highest standard possible. And, it's obvious when you see a lot of his work on tape. And I got, to see that up close and personal last year, and nothing's changed since I've been here this far.
Do you see things in common between him and Jim and what they bring to the table?
Yeah, I think, just from expectations, what they expect out of everybody. They want your best, and they demand your best. And they don't care, whether, you're the highest paid guy on the team or, you're an undrafted rookie. They're going to treat all guys the same, and they're going to play the best guys.
We talk about this culture so much, curated by Schwartz's defensive philosophy. You've been in the league for a while, played for multiple teams, other coordinators, not named Schwartz. Do you think there's a culture you've been a part of that levels up or compares to this?
Greg Williams, I would say he's another one that stands out to me as being a real difference maker as a coach, and has the ability to be able to change the mindset of a group of men. And that's hard to do, all kind of leading and working towards one common goal. And he possesses those qualities. And like I said, I saw the same thing in Jim, obviously, with us winning the championship and having, all the success we had over the 5 years I was with him.
Greg was the head coach here for House.
Yeah.
And he was pretty fiery.
Yeah, it. I have not. I talked to him this offseason a little bit. We still text pretty often. I didn't know he was even in the XFL coaching, so it was good to see him on the sidelines. But, I haven't talked about his Browns days just yet.
Are your Greg stories or your Jim stories more entertaining?
Both. They're both equally entertaining. I spent a good bit of time with Greg, 4 years in St. Louis and then 5 in Jim. So I have a lot of stories to share about both.
Those qualities that you speak of seem to have had such a big impact on you. I assume those are qualities you are inspired to carry with you every day on the field, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like some of the greatest quotes that I share and the way I play and really some of the knowledge I've gained in the league has been because of those two.
Do you have a quote right now, or one that's always on your mind whenever you're out?
Really from Greg is just treat every day like an interview. Came in as an undrafted rookie, and that really just stuck with me all throughout my career. You know, never wasting a day, never wasting a moment. All the precious, every day precious.
Do you ever stop and think, like an undrafted rookie, do you ever stop and think, like, I'm still in the league, I'm still out there? Like that?
I often get reminded of it, yeah, but it's hard to. I rarely take time and to reflect because I'm still in the moment. So I don't necessarily want to reflect until I'm actually done, because I still feel like I got more that I'm trying to accomplish and chase.
So what did you do as a
We'll do
rookie,
two more after that.
as an undrafted rookie, to really catch the eyes of your coaches?
Really just earn the respect of the older guys in the locker room and put good stuff on tape every day. And
Back at 30.
Thriving on special teams. That's where I made a name for myself as a rookie. And like I said, I gained the respect of a lot of my peers in the locker room, especially the leaders of the team.
Were you overwhelmed at all when you know your first day of mini camp or training camp, saying, "Wow, I got a long hill to climb"?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's you can't look for that light at the end of the tunnel. It's just take it one day at a time, do whatever's asked. If they ask me to, you know what I'm saying, fill up the Gatorade, you know what I'm saying, cool as I'm going to do it. I need a job, coach.
You're up.
That's a great way to go out. I need a job, coach. Perfect. Renew your home for the last time with their new home exteriors. Now we're introducing new composite clad siding featuring beautiful deep grained look of real wood in 20 available colors. Keep that just installed look for a lifetime with this low maintenance siding option. Right now, take advantage of no interest or payments for 24 months. Renew Home Exteriors, superior products, superior service. Renew Estimate.com for more on that. It is a Mailbag Thursday edition of the program. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. partner of your Cleveland Browns. Hello, Gibby.
Hi, Bishop.
How are you, buddy?
Watching Ricky Fowler go to 5 under.
That's pretty
at
great.
The U.S. Open.
That's pretty great.
Schauffele's at 4 under. Scheffler, who was at even when we started the show, now 2 under.
I would root for Ricky as much as I would root for anybody in this field. Truly. He's been through a lot. Great dude.
Oh.
Is this for Bird?
Going to 6?
Like a 3-footer?
Birdied the last 3 holes.
Holy cow.
How about them apples?
That's heavy stuff. That's a long that's a new putter. Or at least recent. He never played with a putter that long.
The putter last night was working well for me.
Oh, you had it sliding, did you, Gibby?
Did, except we were saving pars. We weren't.
That's a big bird, man. 7?
4 straight? No, he's at 6.
Oh, 6. Wow. That's awesome.
All right. Good for him.
Yeah. He's a cool dude. Did you see he's playing? Did you see that today? There's a kid who dressed up for him as Halloween in like 2013, and they're playing together today.
No way.
True story.
Really?
Yep. Remember Ricky would wear like the all orange and then the flat brim.
loved it.
Flat brim Puma hat.
Yeah.
That was always his look. And he had the hair coming out of it. So that's really cool. Really cool.
Was that an eagle? That's an eagle, I'm assuming.
Is that Hovland?
Yep.
Yeah.
Eagle.
Yeah, it's a 2.
Well, that'll help the scorecard.
They're scoring, dude.
They're
are scoring out
totally
there.
Scoring on the scores.
Yeah, he's back to even, or he's at -1 now. Yeah.
All right, mailbag time.
Let's do it.
You can tweet us like the regulars haven't tweeted. I think I had them confused because we were Thursday. Last week we went Friday because of minicamp on Thursday.
Right. So they're off. So
Yep.
Bobby's.
So tomorrow
Meckling's asleep at the wheel.
They're going to give us. Tomorrow they're going to be like, oh, here's all my questions. We're going to be like,
we expect so much from Bobby.
Sorry about it. That's all right. I've got a lot left over from last week too.
All right.
Shane Trevor tweets at the show, as you can do, at Browns_Daily. If the NFL were to expand and you get to choose the city, mascot, and color scheme of the new team or teams, what would you choose? We talked about cities yesterday.
San Diego Chargers.
I like it.
The only city that makes sense that doesn't have one that would have the financial aptitude to be able to handle it and the scope is Toronto. There's no place else in North America that doesn't have a team that needs either another run at it or is interested in another run at it. Obviously, you'd love to have the Chargers back in San Diego. You don't need 2 teams in Los Angeles, but Kroenke wanted the rent, and that's why it happened. Toronto not having a team, they're kind of it. Other than that, the NFL's kind of crushed it. Truly.
Yeah, you don't need to be in the South.
You're already there.
You don't need to
go to Birmingham.
You don't need to be in SEC country.
No, there's
Stay
no
out
cities,
of the SEC.
There's no cities down there that are big enough or have the corporate infrastructure. St. Louis has had it and lost it twice. So San Diego, but I don't think San Diego cares that they don't have a team much. Doesn't seem like it.
Doesn't seem like it.
I mean, there's no need to have one. I mean, it's just Toronto. That's it. And I don't know, will that be the next one if somebody can't get a stadium done where they try to use Toronto as the threat? Because forever they used L.A. and they used Vegas. They're both filled up. So,
yeah.
I mean, as for the nickname, I think you would just pay whatever is possible to become the Toronto Argonauts, which is the CFL team, and you just do that.
Yes.
Toronto's got the money. They would have everything. But you're not going to see NFL expansion. There's no place to go. They're locked in.
All right, going back a little bit. What is this week's drink of choice from James the Ringer? It's Father's Day weekend coming up. He always asks us at the end of every week.
Last week, I think I did the transfusion.
Yes.
Which he was, or maybe that was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks.
Memorial Week. I did the transfusion, I made one of those. You know what I made? I mean, this won't be what I will drink, but what I made for the blonde, she was craving a pina colada. So I took a cup of pineapple, a frozen banana, a half teaspoon of vanilla, and what am I missing in there? Oh, coconut milk and like a tablespoon of honey. and then I put some Diplomatico rum in it and blended it. Delicious.
Really?
Yeah, a little pina colada taste to you.
All right.
So that would be a win. Father's Day is a bourbon day usually for me, so I'll probably go that way. Well, it'll probably be some sort of a. I had a Belvedere the other day, which is Campari and bourbon on the rocks. That was pretty good as kind of a mix-up. Something like that, probably.
What was the vitamin water one that you had?
That's the Uncle Stan.
It's a little chilly. It's not. I don't know if it's that type of weather yet for it. But
yeah, the Uncle Stan's a home run.
I was trying to explain this last night.
The Uncle Stan is 3 ounces of silver tequila.
I had it right.
Like in a Yeti, right, with ice, and then you take lemonade vitamin water and pour it on top of it. That's your Uncle Stan.
Keeps you hydrated.
Yeah, it solves all of the problems. The other one that's really good if you don't like the taste of lemonade vitamin water is ranch water, which is tequila and like Topo Chico is what they use, but you could also use like San Pellegrino or something like that with like a heavy, heavy lime squeeze. That's also really good this time of year.
Okay. Let's see. Going through stuff. I'm going through some Bobby questions left over.
Bobby's got some new ones. He's back. He's engaged.
What is your favorite drinking game?
We please play a game in college called Moosehorn.
I desperately want to know this.
You
now.
take I don't even know if I'm going to remember the rules of this, but it is an empty ice tray from a refrigerator. If the quarter lands on the left, it's give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it's on the right, it's take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At the back of the ice tray is a cup. If you land it in that, if the quarter lands in that, then it's a waterfall.
I've been burned by the waterfall.
Kills
many
everybody.
times.
Of course it does.
It's not.
I
At
think it
first
was
you
like-
might think it's fun. It's not fun.
Actually, if it lands in the last one, you have to do something with like moose horn, where you do the moose horn sign like on your head, and then the last one to get the moose horns up, that person is the end of the waterfall.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think that's the way it worked. I
Yeah,
remember there was
that's-
something with like moose. I don't remember.
It's a good way to
I
ruin
haven't
your
done
night.
it in a
very,
very
early.
I'm a man. I'm 40. I don't do those things anymore. But that was the way that worked.
Favorite non-craft beer?
Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
Kidding me? It's my favorite beer. Period. The two beers I've had. I like. Montucky has one, which is one to my they have a beer that you can get every once in a while around here. Really cool branding. They did a good job representing the homeland. But Coors Golden and Modelo, those are the two that I have. By the way, Modelo passed Bud Light this week.
Yes.
Can you believe that? From the standpoint that, I mean, our whole life Corona's been in this country as like the staple, Corona and lime, and Modelo passed them. Let alone
isn't Modelo distributed by Anheuser-Busch?
I think they're all owned by InBev, which is I want to say
it's German.
It's one of the, but then it's also the guys from Brazil own part of it too.
Oh
the
yeah,
3G Capital guys, like those guys own it.
Yeah, for all those people thinking you're getting back at Bud Light,
they're doing just fine.
Yep, they'll take your money out of your other beers.
Yep.
Top 5 cheese.
Bobby, I'm not a cheese connoisseur.
I was going to say.
I like cheddar cheese. I like extra sharp cheddar cheese. That's what I like.
Extra sharp. I love a crumble blue.
I like
to
blue
put
on
that
salad.
on a burger and melt it a little bit.
All right.
Throw a couple strips of bacon on it.
That's an acquired taste, though, because as a kid, there's no way you liked blue cheese.
No.
That was something
not at
that
all.
happened later in life where you liked blue. I couldn't stand it as a kid.
Yeah. I don't like Swiss. I'll eat Swiss on like one or two things, maybe.
I think it's pretty flat. A lot of people around here like it. I think it's pretty flat from a cheese taste standpoint.
And I'll be honest, mozzarella doesn't do anything for me other than on a pizza.
Yeah. A nice Parmigiano, freshly shaved, is pretty good.
Yep.
On about anything. I like a pub cheese.
Yeah, there you
I like
go.
all the fake cheeses, honestly. Like if you have cheese in a canister, I'm in.
It's not wrong.
Squeeze cheese, pub cheese, cheese whiz, all that's Velveeta.
Yep. Fine.
Fake cheeses. I'm a big fake cheese guy.
Bobby wants to know best Zagura off-air story.
Not safe for air.
I was going to say, I don't
think there's anything that he's said off air that I would feel comfortable sharing on air and keeping my job.
I don't know. Worst sports injury you've ever had?
luckily enough, well, I was going to say luckily enough, I've never been seriously injured. I was partially paralyzed for about 12 hours in high school, my sophomore year in football, where I was made a hit, head was down, face down, laying flat, couldn't feel, neck down.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Stretchered off, emergency room, sawed off my everything, sawed off the helmet, everything. Probably within an hour of the injury, I started to get tingling and stuff, but in the moment it was as terrifying as can be. And it ended up being a spinal shock.
Okay.
Is what I had. And I played the next week in a playoff game with a neck brace. Why not?
Well,
why not?
25, 30 years
Idiots.
ago,
Idiots.
it was acceptable.
Idiots.
Well,
I just put him in a neck brace. There's
that'll
I
protect him.
I
That'll
should find the
protect him.
picture of me in this giant neck brace, like pitching the ball. Idiots.
So we have a back issue, but let's not support the back. Let's support the neck.
Jeez. Well, it was whiplash that led to spinal shock, I think is what it was. But it was all, they just wanted me like this. I can't believe people had me play. It was so stupid. Ridiculous. I've got a picture somewhere of me, like, making out of the shotgun, making like a toss pitch in a giant neck brace.
Oh, my God. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Why'd your parents not say anything?
I don't know. They weren't the type to meddle.
They got other more important things going on.
If somebody said, "Oh yeah, he's safe to play," they must know. Must know. To be fair, I didn't play defense that week, but I did play quarterback.
Well, so they just needed the star power. Well done.
Yeah.
That's today's and this week's episode of the Mailbag, presented by Vivid Seats.
Dale Davidson, Cocky Cleveland, our buddy, says Mexico City would be an intriguing NFL market.
Not many people want to go play Mexico if you ask many NFL teams.
Well, no, not only that, you got to live there. That's not
great.
That's not going to work either.
Nope.
Now, you want to put one in Puerto Vallarta.
Well,
then you got a shot. I really think it's only Toronto. I really do. I think it's the only city in North America that doesn't have a team that could handle it and get the NFL what it needs out of it. I really do.
You can't put another team in Florida.
No. It's been done. All right, so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Ricky Fowler, 6 under. Xander Schauffele, 5 under. Scotty Scheffler making a little bit of a move at 2. But nice little leaderboard. All of the big boys, or the remaining big boys, tee off a little bit later this afternoon.
Yeah, should be starting that next group. Well, I don't know because
I mean, I keep looking at this. I've spent quite a bit of time in my life in Southern California. I don't recall ever seeing it be this gray this long.
No.
This is Beverly Hills.
No, and I'm looking at
this is Wilshire.
Like the hole numbers on the right where it says, is that through 13 holes or on hole 13?
No,
because
it's through that many holes.
I couldn't tell because of the multi-tee box starts. I'm like, okay, so where are people here?
Yeah.
But you're right. It is crazy how overcast it is.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Coming up tomorrow on the program, exclusive one-on-one interviews. You'll hear from defensive line coach Ben Bloom, tight end coach T.C. McCartney, M.J. Emerson, Isaiah Thomas, Harrison Bryant, among others. You have that to look forward to tomorrow, which is very, very nice. You also have the next level, which is coming up next. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.